Hello everyone and welcome to Season 5, Episode 8 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 43 on our list, which is the NXT title match between the champion Bobby Roode and the challenger Hideo Itami from the NXT TakeOver Chicago event held on May the 20th, 2017. If you know me personally or you followed, me personally on social media for a while, you know that I consider this match to be one of the greatest miracles of all time. I often use the phrase miracle match, and what I mean by that is a match that on paper is not something that you think you're going to enjoy, that fully exceeds its expectations that you have on it. So, a match that the sum of it is greater than its parts. And I feel a little bad saying that with this match because these are two, good professional wrestlers. Bobby Roode is someone that, he's had moments as a singles wrestler. He's, won a lot of championships and been in the main event scene in NXT and TNA. But he's someone that I personally always think is a much better tag team wrestler. I think he's an incredible tag team wrestler. As a singles wrestler, though, he's not someone that kind of fits the style that I'm looking for, very reminiscent of, a Triple H, during his run on top. And he's someone that doesn't really connect with me. And that's okay, because what doesn't work for me may work for others. But then you take Hideo Itami, also known as Kenta, who at his peak, in pro wrestling Noah, I think is one of the best wrestlers ever. But, in the WWE environment, he's just someone that really didn't translate and unfortunately had a really big string of rotten luck. Bobby Roode coming into this match was coming out of two very long form, 30-minute matches on takeovers with Shinsuke Nakamura, someone that, although not incredibly alike, Kenta, is that, Japanese, strong style wrestler. Those matches between Nakamura and Roode, some people like them, good for them. They really didn't work for me. I found them to be way too long. So, coming into this match, I thought it was going to be something similar. I had no desire to see it. When they announced this as the title match for TakeOver Chicago, I thought it would be a slog to get through. Boy, was I wrong, because this is an excellent, excellent pro wrestling contest. So the story coming into this is basically that, Hideo Itami has had this awful WWE run, and it's no secret. He came in with a lot of hype. He had big buzz off of his signing. They did a big thing where, Hulk Hogan came, at a Japanese house show and signed him to NXT. And, he came in and he won a tournament, WrestleMania weekend, that he got to be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which was a big deal because he was the only NXT guy in that before they randomly just started throwing bodies into that match. He had this big run, and then he got hurt. Unfortunately, he suffered a really bad injury. He came back, and they gave him a really big moment coming back. So, Kenta's finisher in Pro Wrestling Noah, he was the originator of the go to sleep, right? WWE, universe, CM Punk, of course, used that as his move. So when Hideo Itami started, he didn't use that, the go to sleep, the GTS, whatever you want to call it, because of Punk using it. Well, it got to the point where I think WWE realized Punk's gone, he's not coming back. That when they brought him back from his injury, they gave him that big moment where he finally got to hit that move on Austin Aries and was, going to kickstart a feud between those two. Tragedy would strike once again for him, where he would get a really bad shoulder injury once again that would put him on the shelf and derail any momentum that this poor guy had. So, a great built-in story, because as he comes back from that second injury, he's seen all of the guys that he's come up, through NXT with, move on to bigger and better things. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, all of these guys have went on to the main roster. Finn Balor. So, now he's at this point where he's not waiting anymore. He's not gonna do the come up. He immediately calls his shot and, lays Bobby Roode out with the go to sleep and says, I'm coming for that NXT title that he feels that he should have won, 3 years prior. So we get our match here. And the actual story with this match, it's really unique in a way where it's completely built around the finishing sequence. So, often matches should build to their finish, don't get me wrong, but, sometimes they feel tagged on, or, there's not this match-long progression to them. There might be, something that happens. But with this one, right from the get-go, it's Kenta's going to hit the go-to-sleep on Bobby Roode, and if he does, Kenta's going to win the NXT Championship. And for Bobby Roode, it's, I can't take that knee to the head. He's laid me out with it before, when he made his return. So I have to do whatever I can do to avoid it and hopefully hit him with my DDT, because that's my move and that's what I need to do to win. So it's this really kind of unique match where they constantly go for these finishers and find ways around them and to counter them and clever ways as to why they can't execute them. The match, it has a really, really good opening too, where, Bobby Roode, they really establish early on that Bobby Roode is, the more powerful wrestler, but Hideo's got this awesome striking ability. So right at the start of the match, Bobby Roode kind of like muscles Hideo into the corner and goes to do, his like glorious pose that he does. But while he does it, he leaves himself open, and Hideo lifts him up for the go to sleep and almost hits it, and Roode bails out. And it was just, again, a really, really quick way to establish the story that they're going for with this match. There is a really awkward spot early on, too. I talk about that being a great spot in the opening. There's a spot where Bobby Roode's like cowering from chops from Kenta, which is really good, right? Putting over that striking ability. But Kenta does this move where he does like this kind of hop into the ring, and he does this kind of like back mule kick to somebody's head. And it's arrogant, and it's disrespectful, and it's also brutal, and it fits his character perfectly. So he goes for this move on Roode, and he completely whiffs on it and just misses his head with the mule kick. He does it a second time that thankfully connects, and then he kind of does like his own glorious pose. And I remember at this point in the match, even though I enjoyed that opening sequence, I was like, oh boy, this match that I don't want to see. Hideo just whiffed on, one of his big spots. We're in for a train wreck. But they pull this match together so great. They do a really good, like, natural spot for Roode to take over, where he kicks the rope into Hideo's neck. And that, allows him to go to that neck work, which is good and compelling. He uses lariats and neck breakers and the blockbuster neck breaker off the second. He works a chin lock, which, I mean, is, rest holds are never anybody's favorite, but he does, like, a good job working it. And I always say that, like, rest holds are a natural part of wrestling. And if you're going to use them, you have to use them to advance your story, and you have to make the work look compelling. And, for a lot of the crap that Randy Orton gets, he's somebody that I've always thought, when he's working that chin lock, he does a really good job, like, working it so that it's not, I like watching, his facial expressions or how the other guy sells it. So while he's doing that, like, I'm still into the match, watching, what they're performing for us. So Roode does a pretty good job with that. They do, again, just the striking power of Itami, where he just, like, he slaps the absolute crap out of Bobby Roode at one point, which is great. He hits, like, a big series of kicks, hulks him up again for the GTS, which Roode avoids. But Roode makes a critical mistake, and he does a charge, misses, shoulders the ring post. And then we build on this excellent little counter story of, both of these guys, they're going for their finishers, but they're so focused on hitting those moves that they make a mistake each that, essentially leads to one of them losing the match. So this is Roode's, where he shoulders the post, and he starts to fall apart because by him injuring that arm, he hits that glorious DDT, that elevated DDT as his finisher, but he can't really do it with the bad arm. So again, he almost costs him. He gets a good near fall off the double R spine buster. He gets, that out of nowhere for 2. He goes for the glorious DDT. Like I just said, can't hit it because of that arm. Gets hulked up again for the 3rd time for the go to sleep. Manages to slip out once again and recover with like a big stun gun into the ropes. So again, they're teasing the GTS so well throughout this match. And then in just an awesome twist of fate, they go to the floor. Roode goes for the charge again, gets thrown into the step shoulder first on that bad shoulder. And Hideo sees this opening where he goes for his kind of like signature like running drop kick to his seated opponent that he would normally hit in the corner. but he goes to do it into the steps. And what happens? Roode gets out of the way and Hideo jams up his knee. The same knee that he uses for the go to sleep. So now you have this match where both of these guys, all they've planned on is hitting their finisher for the win, and now they have injured limbs that don't allow them to do it. It's just really cool and really unique. Not something I've seen in a lot of matches. And both of these guys did it to themselves by these mistakes, and I really loved it. It felt really organic and not forced at all, and it was really, really cool. So back in the ring, Hideo gets like his signature strike combo. He gets the big spinning back fist. Roode takes a crazy bump off of that into the corner. Hideo hits the floating drop kick this time, goes for the GTS for the fourth time in this match, but just like Roode with the glorious DDT, he can't hit it because of the knee. It allows Roode to counter out, hit that DDT, only gets a 2 count. Amazing near fall because they've built this all match long, and you think that's the finish. It's so great. They flip it back around where Roode goes for the DDT a second time, and out of nowhere, Hideo is able to Hulk him up, hit this flash GTS, basically using everything that he had in his knee for it. But what happens? Heartbreak strikes. Roode falls out to the floor after the move. And it leads to this great, scramble where, Hideo is trying to get out to get him in the ring real quick to get the cover. Gets him in there, only gets 2. And I really like this. I've always really liked the fall out of the ring spot because it creates this great drama of, is it going to get the fall? And it never does. So if you're a wrestler watching this, use this as a finish at some point where you get your guy in the ring and you actually beat him. But they do this great, drama with it. It protects the go to sleep really well. Roode only kicks out of it because of this big, long delay. And again, they've built this story of these guys hitting their finishers. They've both done them with their weakened limbs. They weren't enough. So what do? Do they switch their game plan now? Or do they keep going back to the well until they hit it? That's the question. Hideo decides that he's going to go back to the well, try for that GTS for the 5th time in the match. He just hit it. If he hits it again, his knee's not doing well, but it's worth the sacrifice for him. But again, Roode counters out, goes for a sunset flip. They do the best near fall of the match here where Hideo sits down, British Bulldog Bret Hart Wembley Stadium style. He sits down on the sunset flip, gets a super, super hot 2. I loved it. At the time, I thought it was the finish because, again, it plays into that story of having to use something else to win. It wasn't, though. It got that really hot, too. And then Hideo just drops Roode with the brutal slap, going back to near the start of that match when he slapped the shit out of him at the start, and really established that that striking power. But Roode drops from this slap, and this is where you start to think, did that slap knock him down? Or, Roode was cowering from the chops and stuff earlier, and, he ended up being able to use moves like that as an opening with that kick, to the rope into the throat. So, was he playing a little possum here? I don't know, because what happens is after the drop, Hideo takes a moment, decides, okay, I'm going to go for the go to sleep again, I guess. I don't know what else to do. He lifts him up. Roode counters it this time cleanly into the DDT. The first one didn't work, so he chains it into his second glorious DDT, which was awesome. And of course, that is enough to keep Hideo down for 3. We get the heartbreak of Hideo's, journey in the WWE, reaching its apex here and not working. And, he would have a run on 205 Live after this, but, really he would end up fizzling out before he would move over to New Japan, where he's doing well. He's the current IWGP United States champion at the time of this recording. So, good for Kenta. I've always liked him. Bobby Roode is stuck in a tag team with Dolph Ziggler. So, funny enough that the guy that lost this match is maybe doing a bit better for himself, creativity-wise, at least as far as his career is concerned. This match, though, if you couldn't tell by my enthusiasm during this video, I love it. I can't believe I love it because I thought it was going to be trash. It's so good. It's so unique. And I will always really fondly look at this match. And it's my go-to example, whenever people ask about, those miracle matches or, matches that are better than the sum of their parts. Because this is a WWE match, of course, you can watch it on Peacock. If you're international outside of the US, if you still have access to the WWE Network, it is on there too. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.